Bible specifically talks about the weapons of our warfare in 2 Corinthians chapter 10. And in verse 3 it says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. We are destroying speculations and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God, and we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ." So it says here, the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for, number one, the destruction of fortresses. Number two, right here, destroying speculations and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God. And number three, every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. So we're looking at the destruction of fortresses. We're looking at the weapons of our warfare for the destroying of speculation and every lofty thing that raises itself up against the knowledge of God. And we're taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Those are the three we're going to be looking at. So the first one we're going to look at is the weapons of our warfare are divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. Okay, so the destruction of fortresses, we're using our weapons to destroy fortresses. So what fortresses are they talking about? Anything on which one relies. Of the arguments and reasonings by which a disputant endeavors to fortify his opinion and defend it against his opponent. So we're talking about not an actual fortress, but we're talking in spiritual terms, and we're talking about arguments and reasonings or beliefs. These are the things that we believe, that we have deep in our subconscious, and it determines our future, these beliefs. And these beliefs are usually from when we're younger, and we're taught this as we're growing up by watching our parents and watching other people that we're around. And let's say someone has a belief that if you're gonna, anybody who has money is a crooked person and they got it by stealing it. Well, then if you have that belief, then you will never be able to have money, because you think money if you have money, then you're an evil person. Or here's another one: money's hard to get. Money. The only way to get money is to really work hard. If you believe that, then the only way that you'll ever have money is if you work really, really hard, because that's what you believe. These are arguments and reasonings that are in the deepest parts of our subconscious, and that have an effect on our faith and bring confusion in our life, because even though in our mind we might say, oh, that's easy, if we truly believe in our subconscious that it's hard, it creates conflict. We have confusion and we have doubt. We're double-minded, and we have to use the Word of God to break through these lies that the system that's created in this world, the cursed world that's trying to destroy us, has us believing these things in the deepest part of our soul. And we have to stand up and speak the Word of God as our weapon to destroy these arguments and reasonings which are in our subconscious. So we use these weapons of our word to go onto the rampart, which we're going to see in a minute, and we destroy the lies that are holding us back in our life. Another deeper origin of the word, to have possession of the mind, refers to alarm, agitating emotions. All right, now listen. This is coming straight from the word fortresses. Okay, the word fortresses, I'm clicking on it. It goes to the arguments and reasonings, and then we're going to click on the origin of that word, and it goes deeper into to have, to hold something in the hand, in the sense of wearing, to have, hold possession of the mind, refers to alarm, agitating emotions, etc. That we're being agitated in our emotions because of the beliefs and the fears that we're holding. So the fortress they're talking about is in your own heart. To be alarmed, to be agitated, emotions. So that's number one, the destruction of fortresses. Then in verse 5 talks about the second one, destroying speculation. So speculations, which is a reasoning, a reckoning, computation. In other words, you're trying to reason, you're trying to figure it out, such as a hostile to the Christian faith that goes against the Word of God in your heart and in your mind. You're thinking about these things, judgments, decisions, such as conscience passes. In other words, decisions that you're making. The origin of that speculation is to reckon, to compute, to calculate, to count. So it's reasoning, to pass one's account, to impute. Thing is reckoned as or to be something as availing or equivalent to something as having the like force and weight. To reckon or account, to reckon inward, right here, to reckon inward, count up or weigh the reasons, to deliberate. So when you're dealing with speculation, we're destroying these things by going straight to the Word of God. You're destroying every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God. And lofty things are elevated height, out of pride. And right here it says an elevated structure, a barrier, a rampart. And that's what we're talking about, what a rampart is in the spiritual realm. It's lofty things, it's speculations, it's trying to reason or figure out things for yourself. And then the third thing, we're taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. So we're taking, which means to lead away captive, to capture one's mind, to captivate. You know, it captured my imagination. Well, that's what these reasonings and these beliefs inside of us that our ego uses to keep us in bondage is doing. It's trying to capture our imagination and trying to hold us captive through our imagination and through our beliefs and through our emotions. Taking every thought, taking what? It's capture one's mind, captivate. The thought, it's a mental perception, an evil purpose, that's which thinks. The mind, thoughts or purposes. Taking every one of those, every reasoning captive unto the obedience of Christ. It's to perceive with the mind, to understand, have understanding, think upon, heed, ponder, consider. And when we're doing these things and we're trying to figure it out on our own, then it becomes a hindrance to us instead of freedom. The mind, comprising alike faculties of perceiving and understanding and those of feeling, judging, determining. The intellectual faculty, the understanding. Reason in the narrower sense as the capacity for spiritual truth, the higher powers of the soul. The power of good, of recognizing goodness and hating evil. A mode of thinking and judging. Thoughts, feelings, purposes, and desires. The origin of that word, even deeper, to learn to know, to come to know. Okay, go there. So we're taking every reason captive to capture one's mind, taking captive they're to the obedience, the submission, to surrender, right? To surrender, to listen, to obey, to the obedience, because the word obey means to listen. O means to, and bay means listen in the Greek here. Obey or obedience means to, right? Listen. Ab means to, and audiere or audience means to listen. To listen. So obey or obedience means to listen, be compliant, be submissive. So every thought captive to the submission of Christ. And that's where the victory is. When we understand that our warfare is against the reasonings of our own mind, that's when we have victory. And we surrender our beliefs and how we think things should happen, because we don't know how they're going to happen. We can't imagine it. We can't figure it out, because we never know what God's going to do. And if we try to figure it out and we think it's going to happen a certain way, 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, it's not going to happen that way, because we're interfering with what God is trying to do by our emotions and by our feelings, which are very strong, because we're sowing. And when you have feelings and emotions on an issue, you're sowing into that issue. So we have to totally surrender that issue to God, so that we're not having any emotions. We're just in faith, believing and trusting that God's going to deal with it. And that's where our strength comes from.
You're going to overcome the enemy. And a lot of times the enemy is confusion inside based on our wrong beliefs and our doubts and our fear. There's nothing that fear hates more. And remember, fear is an accumulation of all your doubt and worry and confusion and depression. It's all based out of fear. And there's nothing that chases fear away faster than faith in the Word, in speaking it and declaring it into yourself and into the environment around you, and becoming a warrior and a mature person so that you can surrender control of your life to Him. So once you get the Word, you go on with your daily activities. But while you're going on with your daily activities, you made a decision that you're going to stand on the Word and you're going to keep saying the right decision every time. The right decision every time. And I can't do this myself. I've already tried. We're not made to do this on our own. We don't have the tools to fix it or figure it out. The right decision every time. I don't know how He's going to do it, but I know He's working on it. That is the key to this whole thing. You've surrendered you trying to fix it or figure it out. We don't have the strength in ourselves, and we don't have the wisdom to figure this out. So I don't know how, and I have to tell my ego and my critical mind and my flesh, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm standing on His Word and I'm saying the right decision every time because that's the word God gave me. And I'm obedient by speaking that word and following any other guidance that He gives me. So Lord, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know you're working on it. And I stand on your word, the right decision every time. In my heart, trust in you, O Lord. He says, come unto me, those of you who are weary and heavy laden. Weary is toiling or physical strength or trying to fix it. Weary laden means unwarranted precepts, ideas, wisdom, trying to figure it out ourselves. They're unwarranted. They don't work. So we're trying to fix it or toil or on our own strength, or we're trying to figure it out with our own minds and figure out how we could fix it. A figure is like an idol. You know, when you create a figure of something, it's like an idol, and it's not worshiping God. It's trusting in an idol. Well, when you're trying to figure things out, you don't have the connection to know what's going to happen in the future, to be able in yourself to know what to do so that you are in the right place. So when the future does get here, and it's only a short ways away, that you're in the right place and position for good things to happen that God has promised His people who are conditioned to receive His blessings. So Lord, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm trusting in you. The right decision every time. God bless you.